started. I hit record. Please let me know if it doesn't say we're recording, and we can change that. And welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I am Julia. I haven't met most of you. I've met Matt before online. I am an AmeriCorps service member, United Way of Washington County, and I am part of the VITA team. So we'll definitely be in contact this season. I forget that this doesn't like me going forward. So today we're going to be talking about, we're going to do some quick intros. We're going to do a review of VITA or security standards, how to serve for participants, what is an intake, uploading your intake, Sendesk, which is our software that we'll be utilizing, how to collect signatures, and the certification homework, and as well as next steps for it. Now, times for some intros. We have some questions. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be? And I can go ahead and start. And if I could instantly become an expert, I want to be a cook. I hate cooking. I hate doing dishes. I want to be an expert in being like domestic at home because I don't have those skills. And I think that's all everyone does during COVID. And I would have definitely benefited from being a whiz at home, but I am not. Anyone else? Just Joy.
I would be an expert in memory. I never can remember anything.
I would say I'd like to be an expert in Scan&Go, actually, so I can do it.
Will you tell us?
What's that?
I was just going to say, will you also, as you're introducing yourselves, let us know where you're from, just in case.
Oh, sure. So I'm Paula from the Ypsilanti District Library, Whitaker Road. And as Joy said, we've been doing AARP, though we're kind of late to the party at Whitaker Road. They've been doing it at Michigan Ave. So we're just getting started in tax help, and Scan&Go will also be totally new for us. That's why I'd like to be an instant expert, so it would not take me so much time to do it.
And I'm Joy Chehevitz, and I manage the downtown Ypsilanti branch. And like I said, we've been doing a huge amount of taxes for ARP for many years, and we're glad Paul is on board because so many places have closed in Washtenaw County, and the need is overwhelming. And so this will be a new way for us to get started as soon as it opens, at least with our folks who really need the help, which is where we serve a lot.
My name's Matt. I'm from the Housing Bureau for Seniors. And we also have worked with AARP for a long time, and I've also worked with United Way for the last couple of years on doing Scan&Go's throughout the community. I think if I was going to become an expert in something instantly, it would be like playing a musical instrument, because I'm like very painfully unmusical as far as that's concerned. So I always thought that would be like a cool skill to have if I could somehow manage it. But
we all wanted to be in the jam band. Okay, let's keep going. So first, overview of VITA. We're going to be doing VITA in two services. There's virtual VITA, which none of you will have to worry much about since we will be doing all the tax preparation in this system, but some of your clients may be able to utilize this system. So virtual VITA means that clients can upload all of their documents at home from using a smartphone or tablet or a computer. They do not need any personal appointment, and the information will be transmitted to the VITA team immediately. Now, here's when all of you come in. We have Scan&Go. Our main office at United Way will be a Scan&Go, Housing Bureau for Seniors, Manchester Community Center. We do have Peter SOS Community Service in Ypsilanti Resource Center. We're unsure whether they'll join us this year, but we're happy to have the Ypsilanti District Library with us. We're very happy to be adding people where we need the most.
We've got Aiden Island too. I know Mackenzie's on here. I forgot to, haven't updated this list yet.
It's 2021, you know. Now, there are some eligibility for VITA. So usually to be able to receive full VITA services is a general household income of no more than $57,000. This is up $1,000 from last year. Folks with social security numbers or individual taxpayer identification number. I'm very proud of myself. I know that title. Families, individuals, and retirees, working and not working, self-employed people with limitations. We also have folks that only file state returns for the special credits. Many of them are through the Housing Bureau, and folks that need to file prior year tax returns. We're gonna see this a lot with 2019. It hasn't been 2020 being so hard. We already know many of our clients will need that service. So myfreetaxes.com, we're still waiting for the last information about whether myfreetaxes will be available through United Way. There are free tax filing options elsewhere if your clients really are looking for something soon. MyFreeTaxes has a limit for $66,000 for it to be 100% free. And then this is specifically for taxpayers who are comfortable and have the ability to file digitally and online. And this is great for filers that cannot get an appointment, do not have documentations that's required by us, or they don't, simply there are people who do not vibe with what we do. And if we cannot work with them, then there's definitely resources for them out there. We want to make sure that that is included. Scheduling will happen virtually, remotely, 100%. Clients can call 211 or can self-schedule online. You can, there'll be email, text, mail, and phone call reminders to the appointment. You're also welcome to schedule your own appointment with your clients and just put them into the system. You will have a link to do that. And
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So who does the phone call reminders or the email? Or do you guys do that or do we do that?
We do. If you use our scheduling system, which is an option, we just set up a calendar for you. It's all automated, except for the phone calls. But they get the email reminders and the text reminders through our scheduler.
And then who does the phone calls? You guys or us?
So last year we did the phone calls and almost nobody answered. So we may not do them this year, but we had an administrative assistant who would do them.
All right, so basically you guys would take care of the reminders. We would not have to do that if we use your scheduling system, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. All taxpayers are asked to bring a photo ID as well as social security cards or ITINs for taxpayers. Social security cards are for every single member of the household, actually. We do have a document checklist in our website that either you or your clients are welcome to check. And there is a federal and state intake forms that they will have to complete to receive services. Now, we do have some services that are out of scope. Unfortunately, we cannot help everyone. This does limit there's a lot of out of scope situation for self-employed taxpayers. They total expense of over 25,000. I thought that was 35 for this year, but we could be a little bit wrong. They cannot have any other method of accounting other than cash, and cannot have, if their business is their home, we cannot do their income tax return. We also don't do certain incomes such as property rental or farming, income over 57,000, and 1099K forms are often out of scope. There is a comprehensive list of everything that's out of scope on the 4012, which we could also, here we go, I got ahead of myself. So other situations are also not out of scope, such as ministers, professional gamblers, and alimony received from before 1985, for divorces before 1985, and publication 4012, which is an official IRS publication, has a very comprehensive list of everything that is out in scope and out of scope. So if you're ever unsure, that's definitely the way to go. If you ask me, I will go check it there and then call you about it.
And that's totally fine. If you know, the main thing for you to know is to kind of keep an eye out for these things. But like, if you see someone who's self-employed and you're like, I don't really know if they're eligible, maybe just give them a heads up, like, hey, someone's going to look at your documents. Some self-employment stuff we can't prepare. So, just expect a call and someone will talk to you, because that way they're not crushed when we call them. But it's definitely something that we'll review and determine.
Now, all volunteers must be certified as VITA volunteers. All intake staff must take 2 multiple choice exams. There are 10 questions each. The volunteer standards of conduct, as well as the intake/exit and quality review exam. And it's very basic VITA ethics and procedures. We will be going through people's very personal info, such as their financial situation, their social security number. It is, which is why we also need the certification. And once you pass these 2 exams, we do have, there is a volunteer agreement form that you must sign electronically. And we do have a form on our website, and the United Way website, where you can submit this form, and then you can go ahead and start your season. Now, VITA sites also need certification requirements. And as all staff and volunteers need to be involved in Scan&Go, need to take the IRS certification exams. There is how you take the certification is through Link and Learn. To create your account, don't worry if the notes are a little too uncomfortable to take, we'll be making this available online. But to create an account, create new account, answer 1 VITA volunteer. The following questions, answer no, 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 yes, and then skip the last 4 questions unless you're doing for continuing education credits. You need to take and pass both the volunteer standards of conduct, as well as the intake interview and quality review exam. We also recommend that at least 1 person completes the basic tax preparation exam. This is a tax preparer exam. It will make the process of intake significantly easier, as you have the knowledge that our volunteers would have. And it just might make that process of whether someone is out of scope or out of scope add a little bit more confidence to the team.
How involved is that?
So I would say it for your first year, it probably requires around 8 to 10 hours of independent study and then passing an exam. And it's definitely not required. We have many I don't think Matt has ever gotten. Matt, have you ever gotten tax certified?
I did it the first time. It was, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it was mostly questions about like children and families, which is like not my scope of clientele. So
yeah, so it's definitely not required. We have a lot of Scan&Go sites who don't do it, but if you feel like you have the time, it definitely does make it easier to get an accurate intake from the start.
Okay.
What is time?
Yeah, it's totally up to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, now the volunteer standards of conduct, all volunteers must pass this exam, and you need to follow the 10 quality site requirements. They're in publication 4961. Some of these requirements are: we do not accept any payment, donation, or accept refund payments for returns completed at all. If someone ever would like to make a donation to you, you can lead them to a general donation box or other similar system, but it's not directly to your person or to the VITA team. You cannot knowingly prepare false tax return or engage in criminal, infamous, dishonest, or disgraceful conducts. And as well as you cannot use TaxSlayer out of a clinic. This is primarily for tax preparers. You will not be using TaxSlayer, but if, for example, someone wants to get VITA, but they don't get an appointment, but someone is available, it does not, sadly, we do need to use through the system. It needs to go through all of the steps. All taxpayers should be treated in a professional, courteous, and respectful manner.
What is TaxSlayer?
TaxSlayer is the software that tax preparers will use to complete the tax return.
Okay.
Which is why none of you really have to worry about it. But if you ever hear it, you do know what it is. And you might hear, there's any conversation between a tax preparer and you might hear the word around, but you do not have to worry about TaxSlayer.
It's really, this is important so you can pass that exam, because it'll ask you about this sort of stuff.
I'm going to continue. Now on Link and Learn, this is what it looks like. As you can see, this person passed the 2019 Volunteer Standards of Conduct with 100%. You do
We're not seeing that.
I am.
There, now I am.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. As you can see, this person passed with 100%. You do need 80% or higher to pass. And as you can say, it would say here, pass or fail, and you'll be able to print your certificate. You can also review the course here by clicking here. It will open as a PDF format. This is really handy to study and prepare for the exam. For the intake and interview exam, it's very similar. As you can see, this person has not taken it, but it's right below it. And there is a link over here for the intake and interview quality review training as well. So the training material, yes?
I see that there's a coordinator training. Are we required to do that?
No, that's for our staff that we have to do that one.
Okay, all right.
But as you can see, the trainings to the exams are also linked here. So if you don't know where something is, just log into Link and Learn and you'll be able to find it all together. Now, these are some resources to get certified. There is the 10 quality site requirements that is in publication 5166. The volunteer standards of conduct can be found in publication 4961. And the intake and interview quality review slides are in publication 5101. They are all available on our volunteers research page. So if the numbers do jumble up in your mind or in your notes, do not worry, they are linked. Now, serving participants. At the end of the day, we are doing customer service. We are serving our clients. And what do they want? They want an error-free tax return, which is where your intake process really comes in handy. The more accurate information we have in a timely manner, the better we'll be able to serve them. They want a pleasant and stress-free experience, free service that is accurate and secure, and assistance when they need it. To do so, we must greet participants in a friendly manner, introduce ourselves by first name, really make that connection, provide explanations, really answer questions, and do so whenever is possible. We want to inform participants of tax credits and deductions. You do not have to worry that much about it from the get-go if you feel knowing all these things is scary, but once it comes to quality review, it is really good to have this knowledge available, as people may not understand, even after the tax return is completed, may not understand why they get it back or why they need to owe. And also any questions that they might have prior to transition them to the exit specialists, which are doing our quality review and our signature process. There we go. Now we're about to get some complaints, are about to be hurdles around the way. Some examples are the client that expected to get a larger refund or owes more than anticipated. This will sadly may be very common this year, with many folks not knowing that they could choose to have income tax withheld from their unemployment, as well as changes that we took from the federal state last year. We're sadly going to expect this, and many people will be unhappy about this, very reasonably so. The client ended up being out of scope as they're starting, which is where those publication 4012 with that comprehensive list really comes in handy. Now, when this happens, it's really good to just stay calm, be curious so you get the full picture of the situation, but not defensive. We need to acknowledge the complaint with empathy. A lot of our clients face too many hurdles on their regular day. So things like this sounds very frustrating. I can see how this is frustrating. I wish I could do this for you. And then explain what actually you can do for them. Take actions to make things right. And you can contact the VITA team. Emma, Patrick, or another member of the United Way staff will be there to help you. Even though we are separate from each other, definitely know who we are. If a phone call, a text might be what works best for you, timely manner, just let us know. We'll be there to help.
So if there are questions or problems, is the preference that we are the conduit between you and the client, or do we put the client in touch with you directly, or what is the preferred process for that?
So if there's a problem where a client is unhappy about something, I would say kind of handing them off to us is our preferred strategy to say, it sounds like you're really frustrated. I'm going to connect you with, a staff member from the VITA program, and they will be in touch to talk about these issues.
Okay.
Yeah, because we in general don't want you to have to deal with this sort of stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and we will keep you updated on like what happens, so you know what the outcome was.
Okay, thank you.
Now, client privacy and information protection. So if someone's taxes include a lot of personal information and very sensitive topics, this can include divorce, loss of a job, house instability, and also things that are more personal, such as whether you lost a child that you were carrying or loss of someone in the family. It's necessary to be respectful of the circumstances and ensure people that their privacy is being respected. It's good to consider the volume of your conversation. If you're sharing information with another preparer or certified volunteer, do the best to communicate in a respectful manner. Like, for example, do not email someone's social security number and things like that. They're sensitive about information revealed in the interview, and really think about the language that you use to describe someone's financial situation. Although we may not intend to come off a certain way or to be judgmental, we can easily come off across, and we need to be aware about where we're coming from. Sorry, my computer does not choose. Is this you, Emma? Or am I a little behind?
I think did one slide get glossed over there? Yeah, this one. Well, we didn't see that last one.
This slide? Oh, yes.
The one before this one, yeah.
Yes, that's totally 100. Skip. Okay. Perfect. So tax document security, there's very sensitive information such as social security number, birthdays, addresses, etc. And we should be very careful with these documents, make sure they are secure. Never leave them downloaded on your computer or leave any browser windows with that information open. Make sure you log out of your laptop and send us software, which we'll be talking about soon, when you're not using it. And do not allow anyone who's not a certified volunteer to view any of the documents. This is people's privacy, and we need to prioritize their security.
Now this is me.
Cool.
But you'll keep control. Okay, we've gone over some of this already, but really we're just talking about like what is in an intake or what is the intake process. So now we're getting into a little bit more of the kind of specifics of that. So what you're doing is you're looking at the intake form that they provide, and we'll take a look at that, and matching it up with the documents that they bring in and making sure that everything is there before it's scanned into us. And so we always recommend, starting by kind of letting them know what your step in the process is so that they know what's happening. I'm going to be reviewing your tax documents, making sure everything's ready before it goes on to a tax preparer. Okay. So intake, you're collecting those documents. You're also the first person to check the taxpayer's ID and social security cards. We do that at every step throughout the process, so it gets done multiple times, but we'll take a look at what those are. And so let's talk a little bit about kind of the responsibilities for intake. So you will be scheduling and staffing intake appointments. This one varies a little bit depending on location. So some locations schedule their own appointments. People can only call them to make an appointment. And then some people decide to go through our scheduling system, which means that people can call our front desk and schedule with you, or they can get on our website and schedule with your location that way.
I think we are going to use your scheduling service.
Okay.
Mary said it worked very well, and we already are going to have to deal with the AARP stuff when they get going. So
yeah,
probably easier if we don't have to do that.
Sure. So people will make their appointments. You will get notified as appointments are made so that you can put them on your calendar. We send the clients a reminder and info packet. Those are mailed out by us, but like if somebody gets a appointment and it's kind of like last minute, it might make more sense for you guys to check in with them and give them a paper packet, and we'll give those to you so you have them. This is just like, if they schedule 3 days before they're coming in, it's not going to have time to get mailed to them. You're responsible for doing the intake and scanning all the documents. And then they always come back for a second appointment, what's called a signature appointment, where they sign their tax return. That can either be done by our quality review volunteers who do a second check of the tax return to make sure everything is accurate. So if they have access to your schedule, they can schedule that, or we can tell the client, we finished your quality review, your tax return is ready to be signed. Go ahead and call whatever organization they did the first appointment at. And that second appointment involves printing their tax return and then having them sign a specific page and then giving them a copy of it. Once that's done, you upload a copy of their signature to us and we go ahead and transmit their tax return. So we will not file their return until it's been signed. And then if you have any issues, you can always reach out to us. So how do you walk through an intake? There's kind of a collection of documents that people have to have. There's the 13614C, which is our federal intake form. It's required by the VITA program for every tax return that we do. And it is the thing that helps us to make sure that every return is accurate. It is one of the reasons VITA has such a high accuracy level. And then this form 14446, the IRS loves its numbers, the virtual VITA consent. That's an additional form that they sign that gives us permission to scan their documents. The Scan&Go tax prep cover sheet, which is where we collect their bank account information if they want their tax refund to be direct deposited to them. And then because Michigan state taxes are overly complicated, we also have a state intake form that's based on their housing type, if they're homeowners or renters or whatever. And so almost everyone will fill out one of those as well. And so one of the important things is just to make sure that every question is answered on these. If it's no, that it is actually marked 0, or that it's, has a line drawn through it. So we know that it's been checked for sure. And then photo ID for all adults on the return. This can be a state issued ID, a driver's license, a passport, and then a social security card or ITIN for all members of the household on the return. So that includes any kids. And then sometimes you'll have an adult who's claiming, a brother or a parent, maybe they're disabled or they're living in senior housing. We need a social security card for them as well. And then what you do is you look at the intake form, which we'll take a look at. And for anything that has a yes marked on it, you want to make sure that they've included the document that goes along with that question. For anything marked unsure, kind of looking at the documents they have, talking through the question with them and seeing if you can help them figure out whether it's actually a yes or a no. And if you can't, one of our tax preparers will follow up with them.
I'm wondering if I know in past years that we have been able, and I know that it's gotten more stringent, as far as social security cards, is for an older adult, if they for some reason don't have one, does a original 1099, will that be acceptable for that, or we have to have a copy of a social security card?
Thank you for reminding me. I can't believe that's not on here. So the only other thing that we'll accept for social security card is if they have a social security statement. So they're receiving social security benefits and they have that SSA 1099. That's acceptable because it's from the Social Security Administration. A lot of people ask why their W-2 doesn't count. It doesn't, because that's not a federal document. It's issued by your employer.
And I know that AARP does not accept the 1099 as far as I know. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were, if that was still acceptable for you guys.
Still good with us. All right, so I have two questions. Number one is with us working with AARP, they told us that if a person went to the Social Security Administration, which I don't think they can do now, and got a letter from them, that they would accept that. Is that something that you do? That's my first question.
I would have to take a look at that. If it clearly stated their Social Security number and their name, okay, that would probably be fine, but it's something I'd have to check our program requirements for.
It's probably a moot point this year anyway, but I just wondered. And my second question is, so if people have unsure on the 13614C, and so that it has to go to you guys for further follow-up, that means that cannot be uploaded until that question is resolved. Is that correct?
You can go ahead and upload it, but what might happen is if we talk to them and it turns out that the unsure is a yes, it might mean that we need another document, which they'll have to then, make another appointment to
Yeah.
bring to you.
But you don't have to wait to upload and get the process started. I'm just thinking they're there with their documents and you don't want to keep their documents and you don't
Yeah.
want, okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. So now we're going to just take a quick look at what the how you upload stuff to us this year, and then we'll look at kind of what's in an intake. So the process is to scan everything into one packet, ideally in kind of a logical order. And basically what we'll ask is that you put it in the same order that the documents are listed on the intake form. And then we want you to scan the intake form itself separately, and then you upload it to JotForm. So Julia, if you can click on that link and take us just so we can take a peek at it. So this is a new portal for anybody who was with us last year.
Okay, I have to change how I share.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Oh, now I can.
So when you are ready to upload your client's info, you will go to this website and we'll send you a link for everybody. You'll select which organization you are, your email address, taxpayer's full name and phone number, anything that you just want us to know. And then there's 2 links here where you can upload both their intake form and then their additional documents.
So for the partner email address, is that just going to be the one person at the building that's responsible, or the actual person who's sending it, since we'll have other staff working on it?
I would say that you would probably want it to be one person who manages all of them.
Okay.
So whether it's, a staff member who's just kind of like the lead, or if you want to set up an email that's shared by whoever's doing Scan&Go, that we can contact all of you at, whatever makes the most sense for you guys.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, and we can go back to the PowerPoint. Sorry for making you swap all your screens around.
Is it working?
Yeah, good job.
I'm surprised at myself.
Okay, so let's start with the ID. There are several different types of Social Security cards, and so we just want to give you a quick look at them. You'll see that the main difference is the basic Social Security card does not have any text on the top. So anybody who has a Social Security card with no additional text is a lawful permanent resident, and we can definitely prepare their return. They're at least considered a resident alien or a citizen, so we're good to go. If you see the other 2 types of Social Security cards that have text on them, we have to determine whether or not we can serve them. We can, if they are non-resident aliens, they're not eligible for our services. So what we do is we do what's called the substantial presence test. I'm not asking any of you to do the substantial presence test, although we will take a quick look at it. I'm just letting you know, if you see one of these Social Security cards or this card on the bottom, the ITIN, someone from our team will have to do that test. And so it's worth telling the person like, hey, we have to make sure that you are a resident alien. And then, someone's going to call you to check in about the substantial presence test. And a lot of people will have done this already on a former tax year or, for another government sort of need. So they may already know if they passed the test, but yeah, it's just something to have worth noting so that, again, we're kind of prepping them in case there's any issues. All right. So those ID cards, here it is. Anything, the Social Security cards we've looked at already. I think my slides are a little out of order. And then the photo ID, as I mentioned, can be any of those 3. And then the Social Security card, SSA 1099 or ITIN. Okay. Yeah, that slide was in the wrong spot. Here's our substantial presence test. So it's this whole complicated thing. If they had a green card, they were a permanent resident and they qualify. But then if they don't have one, there's this thing where you have to go through where you have to figure out if they were physically present at least 183 days during the 3-year period consisting of the current tax year and the preceding 2 years, counting all days of presence in the current tax year, 1/3 of the days of presence in the first year, and 6 of the days.
Boy.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So you're not responsible to do this.
You can't even do it. You just would have to take their word for it.
You do, yeah. I mean, and in the end, it's their tax returns. There's a lot of things where we just assume trust of them and take their word for it.
Of course.
So this is the decision tree, but then there's also differences for this if they're on a student or teacher visa, which is on the next slide. So it gets even more complicated. So again, you don't have to do that. Just, if you have a client who comes in who has one of those social security cards or the ITIN, just kind of be like, hey, we'll have to check your residency status. Someone will reach out to you. Just, I just wanted to know if you're not a resident alien, we will have, we won't be able to do your tax return, unfortunately. So just
Better you than us.
yeah, we're happy to do it. All righty, let's move on from this horrifying thing. All right, so let's talk about the
You just rattled it right off.
intake form. So what this is a whole list of questions that collects all of the person's financial information for the past year. We have to have one for every return, and every question has to be answered. So even if it's a no, it should be marked no, so that it's very clear that we know the person has looked at it. And then we use that as an index for the documents that should be included. So if they mark yes, for example, to wages and salary, it'll tell you exactly which form should be included, Form W-2, and that would be the first one that you would, scan in when you're kind of like stacking your documents in order, because it's the first one on the form. Scholarships, it gives you two options, Form W-2 or 1098-T. 1098-T is certainly the most common. If a specific document is not listed, you can check to see if they've attached something for that item. And an example of this is the tip income. So this could be listed on a W-2, or they might have tracked it themselves in a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a tip report. So there's not a specific document listed, but you're just looking for something that logically makes sense with what they've marked down.
So if they had tracked it in a notebook, for example, would you have to scan those sheets from the notebook then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the first page of that intake sheet. At the top, you've got the personal information. So this is, just the basic where they live, who they are. These three key questions: were you totally and permanently disabled, a full-time student, or legally blind? So just making sure they answer those. And if they ask why, we need to know. It's just important to filing an accurate tax return and making sure that they get the credits that they're eligible for. If they have been assigned a identity protection PIN, next question there, they should have a letter that says what that protection PIN is. And that does happen with our clients every once in a while. Next is their marital status and household information. This helps us determine, how are they filing? That's important for figuring out, again, what credits they're eligible for, as well as their standard deduction. So both their marital status and then how many people were in their household. So, and you'll see here, there's two sections for the household members. They don't have to put themselves down, but anybody else who's living in the house, they should fill out a line for on this sheet. They should not fill out the gray section at the end. That's for us. But this basic information, and again, this can be even people who are not, if they're like, oh, it's my brother, or oh, it's my father, and they're like, should I put them down? The answer is yes. If they lived in the household and you provided their support, they should be on here. So that includes like a father in a nursing home, or anything else if you're supporting that person.
So the gray, we don't do the gray area. It goes when you do it.
Okay. What if they have more children than or more dependents? That's not dependents, is it?
Yeah, there's some blank space on page 3 where they can add.
Okay.
Yeah, Joy, it says if additional space is needed, check here and go to page 3.
Okay.
There's a little line for that.
I see that.
I know there's a bunch of stuff on here. It's full of it. All right. And then we go into this list of documents, essentially, or different financial things. So it starts with income, and then expenses, and then the kind of vague life events. So starting with income, you'll see that each of these, for the most part, lists a document. If it doesn't list a document, it's either that there's not a specific one required, or there isn't a document that goes with a question. We just need a yes, no answer.
So if they have something like tip income and it's going to be some other kind of document, like a page from a notebook, should you write that in next to tip income so that when it's scanned, you know what you're looking for?
I would at least make sure that either you're writing in like from a notebook, or that the page you're scanning in says tip income on it somewhere, just so we know what it is.
Okay.
And then, yeah, making sure it's marked yes. So People come in sometimes with these incomplete. We're really trying to work against that this year because we want the appointments to be quick so that they're low contact, and, safe for everybody. And I think it sounds like you guys are doing drop-off service outside, the library. And so you're each kind of working out your own process, but we're just going to be making clear to people they need to be filling this out as much as possible beforehand. The letters at the front of the line, you can just disregard. Those are for kind of on our end, but not important for you guys. So just looking through here, checking to see what they've marked yes for, and anything they have marked yes for, you should have a document for if it has one listed. Okay. I think I said this already. Oh, there's one important exclusion. Question number 5 here. If they got a refund of state or local income taxes, most of our clients get a refund. This is only important if they're going to itemize, which almost none of our clients do because the standard deduction is so high. Even for a single person, they'd have to have $12,400 worth of itemized deductions for it to be worth it. So if they say, yeah, I got a refund last year, but I can't find this form, it's fine. Just go ahead and send the return to us. We almost certainly do not need it.
I do want to add the economic rebate credit. I know we're going to talk about it later, but I know that that question will show up on here on the intake form. I think it comes up at the end, and they'll be able to mark whether they got the received, and I think it will be beneficial to write how much they received as well. There is an updated to the new intake sheet, so you will see it once you start seeing clients.
What kind of income did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry, a stimulus check.
Okay.
I speak the IRS lingo.
It's also called the economic, rebate credit thing?
Economic impact rebate credit, yes.
Yeah.
So we write down a number. Do they need a document for that though?
No, so it'll just
Okay.
ask, I think it's actually on here. If you can go back one slide.
Oh, yes.
So the very bottom question, did you receive economic impact payments in 2020? Now this is not super helpful because there were 2 of them. I guess the second one is technically in 2021, but their credit will be trued up at this time. So we'll talk about that in a minute, how that works. But if people, have questions about it.
But you're saying you want us to write that amount right on the form there right on that line?
If they know what it is, you can write it down there.
Okay.
All right, next slide. I think I've covered all this. Yep, just reviewing everything. Here's a here's a quick view of just, if you're doing this for the first time. All of the tax forms really have the same kind of format. It'll list the year in bold, and then it'll note what document it is. So it should be fairly easy to match up with the intake sheet and know you have the right thing. In general, if this is the document that's specified on the intake sheet, there are no exceptions. So example, if someone brings in their pay stubs from their job instead of their W-2, we cannot take that. We need the W-2. We need whatever it is that's actually listed. So just being clear on that. If a taxpayer can't find their form or you need some kind of support as far as figuring out how they get it, you'll be able to contact someone from the VITA team and we'll be able to help them as much as we're able. A couple of changes for this year. The main ones are federal. So we're also going to look at the COVID impact with another slide set that we have. But this one is kind of a mystery still. There's the look back rule. What this means is that taxpayers will be able to claim the higher of their 2019 or 2020 earned income tax credit and child credit amounts. So we don't know how this is going to work yet. We're waiting for the IRS to tell us, but basically, the earned income tax credit is based on how much earned income you have. And so we know a lot of low income families don't have as much earned income this year because they're on unemployment. And so in order to make sure that more of that money is going back to those families, they're going to say, okay, if you want to, you can base this amount off of your 2019 return instead of your 2020 return. If we have done their tax return in 2020, 2019, we probably don't need anything else from them. But we will let you know as soon as the IRS lets us know, which is, I know, super helpful, but I suspect probably what it means is that we'll need a copy of their 1040 tax return from 2019. Good times. Thanks, IRS. people are allowed to report a $300 charitable contribution, even if they're not itemizing. So that's a change because of the CARES Act. And then if they took with early withdrawals from their retirement account due to COVID, there is not a penalty as there normally would be. There's normally a 10% penalty.
The
Go ahead.
$300 thing, God, that is so frustrating because it was so, it just sounds terrible, but it was so nice because people would bring in all these like crumpled receipts of like $40 they gave to their church, and like we could just be like, no, sorry, we're not, they don't do that anymore. And what now? What does this mean?
Sorry, it means you have to scan all those for us. We're not excited about it either.
God.
And for the retirement withdrawals without penalty due to COVID, does that just mean retirement withdrawals in general? Or do you have to prove it was due to COVID, like that you lost your job or something?
Julio, do you want to open up that second slideshow I dropped you in Slack and we'll look at this a little closer?
Totally. Give me just 1 second. Because it is complicated.
No kidding.
Here we go.
All right. And I'm sorry that you're going to be the one scrolling through this because it's super fidgety.
Oh my God, it is. Give me a second. That's the system.
I know normally I'm the one who does this. This is actually a state tax slide, but it covers all the important stuff. So we're just going to use it because it's got the basics in here. So this is the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security. So this covers our economic impact payments, commonly known as stimulus checks, pandemic unemployment compensation, which was both increased unemployment and expanded to include 1099 miscellaneous or self-employed workers, paycheck protection program, which mostly is important for employers. So we're not going to really deal with that a lot. That's not our clientele. Retirement account withdrawals, rental assistance, and then the charitable contributions. Economic impact payments, woohoo! So the maximum credit is $1,200 per person, plus $500 per qualifying child. And this is for the first credit, by the way. This set of slides was made before they issued the second check. If the taxpayer had filed a 2019 or 18 tax return, a check or direct deposit was already put into their account. These payments are not counted in adjusted gross income. Okay, you can skip the last two there. Those are just things tax preparers need to know. The pandemic unemployment compensation. This is one we want you to be aware of. So this is basically the expanded unemployment benefits. And so the main thing to think about here is even self-employed individuals could get unemployment, which normally they cannot. All of that unemployment money is taxable, and we do not know for sure if clients will have withheld enough taxes from their unemployment payments. So this could be the first year that they owe money. But also looking at this amount, if they got this full amount, that's $962 a week, which if you think about someone who's normally making minimum wage, that's a significantly higher income. And so this could have effects on their tax return. They could end up getting a smaller refund, owing more money. And we just want them to we want you to kind of know about that and be prepared for that. I mean, we'll be the ones talking to them about it, but if they come back to your site to sign their tax return and they're upset, or, they contact you, this is probably going to be the reason why. So just something to keep an eye out for. Yeah.
Could they have had taxes withdrawn when they were getting the unemployment, or did they have to do this on their own?
So it's something where they kind of like when you set up your W-2, you put down like how much to have withheld, but it's not required. So some people may not have withheld anything
because they were tight.
Yeah, or they may not have withheld enough, and so we just know that that's going to be an issue.
Yeah. You were able to check a box if you wanted any tax withheld, and it was a very small box.
And they were very desperate.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge is that, they didn't necessarily account for that. And, some people, if they get extra money, they use it for whatever purposes, and then they don't have anything left over. So.
Yeah.
If they owe taxes, is that they have to pay that by, at least at this point, April 15th?
And yeah,
Oh,
yes.
boy.
Well, they
So-
can do a payment voucher or an extension though, can't they?
They can file for an extension if they need to, and if they do need to, that's something where we have, we can send them over to the low income taxpayer clinic at U of M. If they pay after the deadline, it starts to accrue interest without a payment plan, so they would definitely want to get in touch with someone.
But they can do the voucher and do a payment plan too if they want, right?
Yeah, but they have to apply for the payment plan, so they have to get
Right.
approved.
Yeah, I can see this
Excited.
being a big deal.
That's
Okay,
gonna be a challenge.
yeah, so here's the issues I think we pretty much covered. They might end up owing some money if they didn't have it taken out, so just be prepared for that. And then we can skip this one. It really won't affect us since it's more for employers and they usually make too much for us to see them. Charitable contributions, so they can have that $300. Now it's important to note that this is $300 whether they're single or married. So the IRS kind of made a mistake here. They should have made it $600 for married couples, but they did not. It'll be $600 for married couples in 2021, but it's too late for them to correct it now. And that's just something where they need to prove, show receipts that they donated money to a charitable organization. It cannot be like a GoFundMe page or like, well, I gave $500 to my nephew because he lost his job. It has to be an actual nonprofit.
And you said they'll all have to be scanned, the receipts, right?
Yeah.
Can't be a GoFundMe.
If it was through GoFundMe directly to a nonprofit,
Ah, okay.
account, but if it was like my nephew wanted
Right.
money for his tuition, that does not count.
Lots of nonprofits do GoFundMe now.
That's right. Thank you, Julia.
That's fair.
You got me. All right. Rental assistance. We know that there will be a lot of people who received rental assistance for the first time this year. This is captured on our state intake form, so we already have somewhere where people will write it down. So just knowing that it's on there if people ask about it. If they're like, I got rental assistance and I don't know where it goes, it's going to go on the state intake form. And it'll just ask them if they received rental assistance and if so, how much.
Is that going to affect their tax return?
So they might get a smaller home heating credit because they didn't, and property tax credit because they didn't pay as much of the actual rent in.
Oh,
Yeah,
That'll be a big deal for the seniors.
it will. Yeah. And then the last one here that I think really impacts us is the retirement withdrawal. So traditionally, if you took money out of an IRA or an employer provided account before the age of 59 and a half, you had to pay a 10% penalty in addition to any taxes due. But the CARES Act has changed that temporarily. So if you took the withdrawal as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, you pay no penalty on it. You do have to pay taxes on it. So 1/3 of the but they let you split. Let me just mix up all my words. They let you spread it out over 3 years if you want to. So you can split it up and pay the taxes on 1/3 of it each year for the next 3 years, unless you just want to pay the whole thing in 1 year. You can also just pay it. Yeah, so you can pay back the whole thing if you want to. Those withdrawals are included in AGI, so it does affect their income.
so just sort of as an aside, so the people that I'm doing, because a lot of people I'm just doing a home heating credit for or just a homestead credit, if they receive rental assistance, would I just remove that amount from the amount that they paid in rent over the course of 2020?
Yeah, so you would just put the actual amount that they themselves paid in rent, and then
Okay.
not anything that was paid by someone else.
Okay.
All right, we can go back to our slideshow to finish up with a little bit more detail on the economic impact payments.
Wait, my computer's being angry at me. Hey.
All right, so we're just going to give you a little info on these so that you're informed, because everyone's asking questions. All right, so we covered the first economic impact payment a little bit already. An important thing to know about it is that originally taxpayers whose spouse did not have a valid Social Security number did not get their economic impact payment, even if they themselves qualified for one. So they have fixed this, and the person with the valid Social Security number can now receive their payment, but they're going to get it when they file their taxes. So there was this whole group of people who just didn't get it because of, kind of some glitches in how they did the rollout. And these were sent to people who had an adjusted gross income of under $75,000 for individuals, $112,500 as head of household, or $150,000 for married couples. And it was based on their 2019 or 2018 tax refund.
How is this on the form?
That's that singular question we looked at that said, did you receive an economic impact payment? Yes, no.
Okay, so then we will follow up with them about if they did not, and they have somebody in their family who does not, if they did not receive a stimulus check, and they have somebody in their family who does not have a Social Security number, then you guys will notice those contradictions. Okay.
Yeah, so kind of the important thing to know is if someone comes to you with their tax documents and they're like, also, I didn't get my stimulus check.
Okay.
You just say it's, you reported that on your form, and you will get that. Basically, they'll get it as a tax credit when they file their 2020 return.
That's good. That'll make up for the unemployment.
Yeah, that helps a little bit. Now, the second stimulus payment was only based on their 2019 return. So we did have a lot of clients who didn't file a 2019 return last year. So if they haven't gotten their $600, that's probably why. If they're like, I got the first check, but I didn't get the second check, that could be why. Again, it'll get balanced out at this time. And it turns into the economic rebate credit. Woohoo, fancy new name. So there's some situations that mean they might get this credit. For example, if they were a dependent in 2019, when they file their 2020 tax return, they're independent, they're eligible for that full $1,200. The spouses who did not have a valid Social Security number, anybody who didn't file their tax returns in time, or those who did not get the full amount they were eligible for. And so a couple examples of this would be like, if they base it on your 2019 tax return and you didn't have a child when you filed your 2019 return, but then in 2020, the wife gave birth, you would technically be eligible for an additional payments for that child. And so you would get more money when you file your taxes. So there's a few cases where you might, be eligible to get more than you had received originally.
But you guys take care of all of that, basically.
We do, yeah. And so just affirming for them, yeah, it'll be balanced out as a credit on your return. Now, if anybody asks, I think I got too much for my stimulus payment, are they going to require me to pay it back? The answer is no. Anything that has already been paid out will not be required to be sent back, even if it was sent incorrectly. So that's at least one good thing the IRS has done for us this year. Thank you. So that would be a mess and a half. All right, so once you've submitted your intake, you've answered your client's question, they're out the door. You're just kind of keeping an eye out for any communication from us. So typically, if we just have questions, we'll start by calling the taxpayer themselves. If we're missing a document, though, we might be reaching out to you, or they might be reaching out to you to schedule a follow-up appointment to come by and scan that. So just, if we're having a problem reaching the client, we will reach out to you. We know sometimes, if they don't recognize our phone number, they might recognize yours for some reason. If, for like example with Matt, they've worked with him before or whatever. And also just because you're kind of their point of contact. So we'll also always contact you if there are any issues, if we're running into a problem where we can't serve the client, they're out of scope, whatever. We'll follow up with you and let you know, just so that if you're seeing them again, you know what's happened. When the return is complete, you will get an email that notifies you it's ready to be signed, so that person will be coming back in for their signature appointment.
And so you said the signature appointment, the taxpayer sets up with us directly. That's not part of the scheduling block that you have?
Yeah, so that'll be up to you too. It can either be a scheduler that we use, or it can be something where we just tell them to call you and then you put them on the calendar.
All right, so then we can use your appointment system if we want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So the taxpayer comes back to collect a copy of their return. We have already discussed their return with them over the phone. We've told them what their credits are, what their refunds are, all that stuff. But we also always make sure they get a copy of the return. And then they also have one page that they need to sign on that return, and we will send you kind of a PDF showing you what that is, but it's just called like the 8879 signature form. And so once they sign it, you'll upload that to us. We'll have a little portal for you to send it to us. And then once we receive it, it'll be filed. All right.
How long does it take usually for this process to happen?
Yeah, so to get their tax return prepared,
Yeah,
I would say 1 to 2 weeks.
okay,
And the most important thing is just telling them, keep an eye on your phone, answer any calls you get. You know, even if you don't recognize the number, it's probably someone from our VITA program trying to reach you.
okay.
And so the more they answer their phone and the more they provide us everything up front, the faster it is. And then the slower it is if we don't have all the stuff we need.
And you only do it by phone, not by text or email?
We will, if somebody doesn't answer the phone, we might try sending them a text, but typically
Okay.
the people who are using Scan&Go don't have email or they don't have tech access. So
Okay,
yeah, we just kind of keep it this way. Let's see, we're not going to do this practice one today, but I am going to send it out to you so you can take a look at it. It's just kind of an example of what an intake would look like.
Do I have this?
Yep.
Oh. Wait, do I have this on the?
I'm not gonna do it on this one.
Okay.
This is from the other training we did. So
Okay. Like I should have something somewhere.
okay.
Let's go back here.
Yeah, if you can just skip forward to the welcome to Zendesk section.
Yes.
This is so weird. Oh, you know what? Actually, we can stop the recording and I'm just gonna show them Zendesk on my computer. Sorry guys, I've been out sick for a couple of days, so my brain is a little bit fried.